Hi, my name is Sherry, and I have someone in my life that is really hurting. And because I love them, and it's hard to talk to someone when something is going on in their life. And I decided today to share a little bit of my story, not only for her to hear, but also for other people to hear who are hurting and don't really know what to do, don't really understand what is going on within themselves, to be able to even tell anyone why they're doing what they're doing. Because when we're younger, we don't always know why, what we're feeling and understand. Anyway, I wanted to share a little bit of my story that might relate and really reach the heart of her, since she's confused, and that this could help a lot of other young people and adults who are going through a lot of confusion and confusing times. Um, so anyway, when I was 14, I was not getting what I needed from my dad or my mom. And I was number 6 of 10 children, and there wasn't a lot of time, and a lot of, my parents didn't know how to express emotions, except for my dad. He'd have times of explosive anger, and all of us would be walking on eggshells, waiting for the next time, trying to keep that from happening, which no person can do that. So anyway, um, I didn't have friends, and I wasn't allowed to have people over to the house. I wasn't allowed to go places other than school. And then I had a job starting at the age of, oh, just like babysitting and that sort of thing. But I didn't really know what was going on with me because I just was doing what I was told to do. I'm supposed to go to school and I'm supposed to help at home. And there really wasn't time for me. And so, anyway, I didn't have friends per se, or, like activities after school. And I had to go right home. And so, anyway, I had a person that paid attention to me, and he was older. He had a car, and so when I walked to school, or usually on my way back home from school, he would ask me if I wanted a ride. And then there was another, and I started taking a ride home, with him, but I would have him drop me off, maybe a half a mile before my house, so that my parents wouldn't know. And then there was another, uh, but his intentions were not good. He wanted more from me, and I didn't want that. I was just needing someone to pay attention to me. I was needing someone to love me, and my dad wasn't able to do that. He had been through a lot of stuff, and um, he had so much pain in his life, and I knew about some of it. And so I actually, in some ways, was like a parent to him and showing him love, but not really getting that back. Anyway, so that started happening. And to me, it felt like I had a friend. I had someone who really loved me or cared about me. And he didn't. He just wanted one thing, which he didn't get. But I was getting attention, and I was getting what felt like love to me. But I didn't realize what was really going on with me. And then I had a sister who I would babysit for her kids. And I would talk on the phone with him after the kids got to bed, and I had cleaned up everything and had done a really good job with babysitting the children. And my sister found out, and she told my parents. And another thing that had been going on is that there was this other guy that he's he would he started like stopping with his car after I would while I was going to school, and he started saying, that he wanted to go out with me, not really saying go out, but kind of like connecting with me in a way that felt like, oh, maybe this could be a boyfriend type thing. And it was a very innocent thing on my part, because then I said, well, I don't have time to do anything. So we started writing letters to each other. And he would write to me, and he would give me the letter, hand it to me on my way to school. And then I would write a letter back to him and hand it to him. Um, and I really thought from what he was telling me that he really cared about me and he really loved me. But I didn't know this and I didn't want to believe this, but he was a married man, and he was older than me, lots older than me. Um, but he paid attention to me. He told me things that I really needed to hear. And when my parents found out what was happening, um, my dad got so angry one night when I um, was late coming home from working at the library. Um, he he was him and my mom were waiting up. It was after I had gotten done working, and this person had given me a ride home. And um, my dad asked me, why did I keep doing these things? And he wasn't very kind, and he was very, very angry. At first, he seemed okay, and the things that I usually could do to keep him from getting too angry weren't working. And so when he asked me, why do you keep doing these things? I did not know why, and I couldn't answer him at all. And so he started yelling at me. And the only reason I'm sharing this is because I know now why I was doing what I was doing. And in wanting to help the person that I love and other people who might be feeling similar feelings, whether you're 10, 12, 14, 20, 30 something, 40 something, and you really can't connect with yourself to know what is going on or why you're behaving the way that you are or why you're doing things that you don't understand and people around you don't understand, in hopes of helping other people that are having similar problems. I want to share this, um, not as a way to say, oh, poor me, because I've had a lot of therapy and I've done a lot of work to identify my feelings, but also to really connect with myself and to be able to connect with God and other people. Um, there needs to be looking within and to really see what's going on. Anyway, my dad got so angry that uh, I got afraid of him, and I went into the other room, which was a bedroom that my parents used. And all of a sudden, he started beating me, and I could not get away from him because I was in that room. with him, and then my mom was there too. And what happened is he was a policeman at the time, and he grabbed the big aluminum flashlight that he used for work, and he started beating me with that over the head and just everywhere that he could hit me. And there was a sofa bed in that room, and I remember, like, falling back onto it and trying to get away from him, and I remember my mom was she first, when it first started, she yelled his name, and then she told him to stop, but he wouldn't, and he kept hitting me, and I even remember trying to put my feet and my legs, like, between me and him, and trying to push him away, and it just got worse and worse. And then somehow I got off the sofa, and I was able to, and at this point my mom stopped saying anything. I'm sure she was afraid also. And somehow I got off of that sofa bed, and I was able to stand up, and he continued beating me, but I was able to get into, like, back away from him, and I was able to. I remember we had a closet with a curtain that would, uh, like, you could open or close, and the curtain was closed, and I was backing up into towards that closet, and so finally I was able to, like, back into that closet, and my dad um kept doing what he was doing. But anyway, I at one point, then I just kind of slumped down onto the floor, and he must have connected inside of himself. Oh no, what am I doing, type thing. And so he took off, and he left the house, and my mom was standing there, and I was able to get up off the floor, and I went towards her, and thinking that I really need a hug right now, and I really need support. And I went to her, and she pushed me away, and she said, "Go to bed." And so I went to bed crying. And the next morning, my mom said, "Dad's sorry for what he did." And my dad, my mom, no one asked if I was okay, never talked about it again. And I carried that with me until I was an adult and could um, deal with it. And I don't think any of us are meant to carry any of the trauma or abuse that we go through, because it's a very confusing time when you're a child and when you're a teenager. And I had to disconnect from myself to be able to handle the trauma that was going on in my family. And in disconnecting with myself, in some ways, I had to pretend that I was a different person. I couldn't be the person that I was because it wasn't safe. I wasn't allowed to express feelings. I wasn't shown how to express feelings. So in a child's mind, it's like, it's not really happening to me. It's too painful to realize this really happened. So denial, the way that works, as most of us know, it's like, if it really didn't happen to me, then that's how I'm going to deal with this, because it's very painful. But what happened is that, in not being able to talk about my feelings and not really being connected with me, disconnecting from emotions, disconnecting from the different things that happened. There's like this disconnect so much so that the feelings go numb. You have to like push. I had to push the feelings down, and in disconnecting from myself, feeling like, oh, that maybe really didn't happen to me, which is what our mind does, then we can't feel what we need to feel. But also, there's so much shame about the experience that we do feel and we do carry. And there's just beliefs that are so not true, but what we feel is what we believe. I felt like I was worthless. I felt that I was this horrible person, and a child or a teenager or any of us, when we are being and when we are not shown the love that we need for whatever reasons, we feel, I felt like I was bad. I felt like there must be something wrong with me because what I was being shown and what I was internalizing, my beliefs about myself, because I really didn't even have a self to connect to, was that I was this horrible person, that there's something wrong with me. And that's what shame does. Shame says, and like if I did something wrong and I really had a need to feel guilt about something, which some of the choices I was making were wrong. Yes. But also, what guilt says is I did something wrong. What shame says is that I'm wrong, that there's something wrong with me as a person because I'm not getting the love that I need. And maybe you're in an experience where you're feeling those feelings, but yet it's it's too painful to feel those things because with shame, it feels like if I go into those feelings, I'm not going to survive. When there's trauma and abuse, and that, or just not just when people around us are neglecting to be able to connect with us in a way that we need, and they are unable to show us the love that we need, and we don't have the words to tell them, I really need you to spend some time with me. And sometimes when we do that, it ends up not happening. So, but the shame that we carry tells us that it's too painful to feel these things. So I have to do something to get rid of this pain. And it can be getting into eating too much or not eating enough. It can get into self harm, which is a way to, okay, if I get into these behaviors, it gets rid of that pain somehow that we can't even feel. And then maybe we're going to feel comfort or something that takes that feeling of shame away. And shame, I believe, is a driving force for any addiction, for any behavior problem that we experience, whether we're a child, a teenager, or an adult. And these things can cause us, the shame that we feel will cause us to do things that other people don't understand. And it's all coming from shame. So the person that carries the shame, like I did for so many years, they really can't tell you why they are doing what they are doing. I was not able to tell my dad why I was doing what I was doing. I didn't know. How could I know? I was doing everything just to survive. There's no way as a little child or as a teenager or, when all these things are happening in the home that I lived in or that you're in. And it's like, but that's what causes the acting out behaviors. That's what people focus on sometimes is the outward behaviors because no one knows how to get to their own heart. That's what I ended up protecting. I was like, I'm not safe. I'm not able to get what I need from other people. So I'm going to have to hide this heart that I can't even get to anymore. And so the reason I'm sharing this is because we don't know why we're causing, or, like what ended up happening then is that my parents wanted the behavior to stop. They wanted to, they felt like they had to control the behavior and to do things to stop that from happening. But what I needed, what any of us need, is for us to be able to have a safe environment, number one, and be able to have people that we can talk to, even if we're unable to talk to the person we're not getting the love from that we desperately need, because for whatever reason, they can't handle their own emotions or whatever's going on with them. And they're doing all they can to survive too. At some point, if we can have the closeness with people that really love us and really care about us, to be able to open up and say what's happening inside, not so much focusing on the behaviors. So a child or a teenager or an adult who has gotten into drinking or doing drugs or gambling or shopping too much or eating or not eating or whatever the behavior is, that is a way to cope with the overwhelming feelings. Shame says we're bad. And so we don't know how to handle shame. Shame is such a powerful emotion. That feeling is the driving force that gets us to reach for something else or someone else so that we can get the focus off of ourselves and the horribleness that we feel and the badness that we feel that we are. And when we connect with something else or someone else, it helps to say to us, you're okay. You're really okay. And we're really not okay. Not when we are hurting and we don't have any way or we don't know any way other than what we are doing at the time. In getting the letters from the person that I thought cared about me, I felt like even if I didn't talk about my feelings or, just connect with that person kind of on a shallow level, because when there's so much shame, it's hard to believe that anyone could love me or anyone could love you because of the badness and the shame that we feel. And in getting words that sounded like someone loved me from someone else, of course, I wanted that. I wanted that closeness. I wanted that love. Even when I found out that that person was married, I didn't want to believe that. I did not want to believe that was true. My parents knew. My parents found out. And if they had talked to me and were able to show me the love, especially from my dad, when a girl, a dad is a very important person in a girl's life. That's their daddy. And that's their supposed to be their first love. And when we have an earthly father that doesn't show us the love that we need and that we deserve, we feel like we don't deserve love. We don't deserve to be loved, and that there's something innately wrong or horrible about us that causes that other person not to love us. And it's too hard to understand when you're a child or when you're a teenager that they don't know how to show love because they weren't shown love in the ways that they needed to be shown love. But the first person in a young girl's life is her daddy, as far as being able to then get the love that they need and eventually be able to accept God as a loving father. What happened to me and many other people, since I connect with a lot of other survivors of abuse, is that when we don't get the love that we need from our daddy, our earthly father, it's like we make this connection that, like, well, is God like that? If he is, he's not going to love me because I feel so horrible and I feel like I'm this terrible, bad person. How could God love me? And I hated myself. I had so much um, self hatred that I carried for a lot of years, well into my adult life, that if other people didn't show me love, I didn't know how to show myself love, because all of the blame and all of the things that happened to me, I took it on as if I was to blame, as if I was the bad person, because a child can't survive to think, well, my parent did this. My parent is a bad person. A child can't survive trauma and believe that is true. It's like, no, 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 no. I got to believe that I'm bad because otherwise I have to face the truth that my dad did something so horrible to me. I should have went to the hospital, but I wasn't taken to the hospital. I should have gotten what I needed, but I didn't. But I blamed myself, and I did that for many, many years. I was not to blame. I was a child, first of all, and I was a teenager. And any person, no matter what we go through, always takes on the blame, even if our parents tell us, well, it's not your fault. Um, it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault at all. And if you are getting into behaviors and you really don't know why, it's not your fault, the things that happened in your life. You had no control over any of the things that adults have done in your life. And when we feel powerless and helpless, it's natural and it's normal human behavior to think that we're to blame. Because when we feel powerless and helpless, there's a sense of needing to have some kind of control, and doing behaviors that help us to feel like we have some control over something gives us that sense of control, because feeling powerless, feeling helpless about what's happening externally, and then feeling the things that we feel, trying not to feel the shame and not to feel our very strong emotions that feel like if we feel them, we're going to die, because that's what it feels like. If we touch on those feelings, it's like, oh my gosh, I got to have control. I got to control this because everything outside of me is out of control. It's a temporary fix for actually going ahead and feeling those feelings. I had many years of therapy to be able to talk to someone about these things because as an adult, I always remembered that my dad had beaten me, but I remember like when I got away from my um my when I left home and I got married to another person that was abusive and angry. Um, I was getting strong enough because I was going to a therapist and I was going to a support group to realize that I was worth something, that my life did matter, that I wasn't bad. I just had bad things happen to me. Um, I remember being in the shower one day and I always remembered my dad doing these things to me, but I actually was experiencing the feelings as if it was happening all over again in the shower. And that's what happens. They call that flashbacks. So this was like where was able to feel the emotions this time and feel what I felt, what I would have felt back then if I could have, if I would have had support and people around me that uh, I could open up to, but couldn't at that time. So if you're going through something and you really don't know why you're doing what you're doing, number one, I want to say that that's normal. You're human and you are lovable. And you just have feelings that tell you otherwise. Every single person is lovable. And when we don't get the love that we need for whatever reasons, that doesn't mean that I'm to blame or you're to blame. And it doesn't mean that the shame that you feel is who you are. We don't want to be that person that those things happen to. We want to be someone else, as if I'm someone else, then I can handle what's happening. In being someone else, however, we're not being the genuine person that God created. And God wants us to be able to be ourselves so that we can connect with our emotions and we can connect with our beautiful self. I learned how to love myself. It took me, like in the morning before I would even get out of bed, I would say, I love you, Sherry. And because I have DID, as I was connecting with the different parts of me, like the child in me, little Sherry, um, I would say, I love you, little Sherry. And I would hug myself in the morning and say the words, I love you. And I would also say, you're not bad. I'm not bad. And neither are you. The shame that we feel does not get to define us. The things that happen in our life do not get to say who we are. So in disconnecting from ourselves, we disconnect from the real person that we are. And when we disconnect from ourselves, when we disconnect from our emotions, which are God given emotions, God gave us those emotions. When we can embrace the emotions and we can embrace ourselves and say, I'm really okay. I'm really not bad. May have made some bad choices, which we all do, but that doesn't make us bad people. And when we can love ourselves or able to realize that we're not to blame for every person's actions around us, then and only then can we accept love from people that really do have our best interest at heart. And as important as a mother's love is, and a father's love, which are both equally important, as a girl, as a woman, we need to have that dad that shows us love. And when he doesn't, we will try to get it from somewhere else. And the somewhere else that we can get it from is God. But when we don't believe we're lovable and we believe that we're bad and that we're to blame for everything and everyone around us, then we are unable to accept that love. And it takes time. It takes going into the pain and feeling the emotions that we do everything to try not to feel. And when we do, I will tell you that there were times that I felt like I was going to die by feeling the emotion of shame, especially, and realizing the pain, um, feeling the pain that was caused um, just from walking around feeling like I was unlovable. But feelings have a peak. Like, I remember feeling like the feelings of shame, especially like that we do everything to push away and try not to feel. When we go into those feelings, it feels like those feelings are never going to stop and they're never going to end. And we have to either like pull back and stop feeling them, or we're going to reach for something or someone to try to keep from feeling anything more. And that doesn't work because we just keep carrying that shame with us. But feelings peak. They have a stopping point because then they do come back down to normal. I wanted to share a little bit of my story today because not only can it help other people, I want to help the person that is struggling uh, with similar things that can be so confusing. And we don't know why we're feeling what or mostly we don't know why we're doing what we're doing. And if somebody were to ask you, why are you doing these behaviors? You might not know. You might not be able to connect the dots and connect with yourself and how you're really feeling. I encourage you to take a little bit of my story and learn from my experience that you are lovable and that you can feel those very strong emotions and you can get the help that you need, whether it's a therapist or going to other people that can support you. And knowing that you're lovable is huge. We don't always feel lovable, especially when we're going through a lot of hard things in our lives. And there's a lot of things that can happen in our life that make it hard to believe that we really are lovable. Thanks for listening. I hope that this has been a blessing to you. And I would like to say a quick prayer about this very thing. Lord God, thank you that you are a father, a loving father that does love us with an everlasting, unconditional love. And I pray for every single person that is feeling unlovable. And I pray that you would help them to know how lovable they are. There's a Bible verse that says something about helping us to comprehend the height and depth and length and width of your love. I pray that the person that's watching this and hearing this will know how lovable they are, and that they will be able to connect with their strong emotions and be able to know why they're doing what they're doing, and that you would lift the shame off of them and help them to know that they're not to blame for needing and wanting to be loved. And I ask that you would heal the very wounds that have hurt them in their life. Jesus, you came to heal the brokenhearted and set the captives free. I pray for every single person that is struggling with whatever they're struggling with, Lord. Maybe they're reaching for food or not eating at all. Maybe they're getting into self-harm or wanting to die or end their life. I pray, Lord God, that you give them hope, that you give them peace, knowing that they are very good. You created each of us fearfully and wonderfully, and we are your children, Lord God. And you want us to have a relationship with you. You want us to be loved. And when people have failed to love us, especially our earthly parents, especially a dad, I pray that you would make a way so that the people that are not getting what they need from their dad, and maybe they've told their dad what they need, and yet he still doesn't know how to love that person that really needs loved, that they would know that it's not their fault. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you for listening to my story, and I pray that this has been a blessing to you. Thanks for listening.